To start things off, can we have everybody introduce themselves? Anil, I'll let you go first.
Hi everyone, I'm Anil Nadiminti. I'm a senior solutions architect at AWS, and in my role, I work with the financial fintech customers, the large cryptocurrencies of the world, the large decentralized exchanges of the world, and in the last couple of years, I've gone a little bit deep in the agentic AI space. So I also help organizations ship AI, and just not from POCs, but in production. So the CISOs of the organizations are happy. So that's about me.
Hi, Vincent Chok here. I am the founder and CEO of First Digital. We're probably most known for issuing FDUSD stablecoin out of Hong Kong, and introducing our new project now, Finance District, which is a platform around agentic economies and building around that. So good to be here. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Phil. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Soho Pay. And at Soho, we're building a on-chain credit card for AI agents. And I recently just left American Express to build it. Great to be here.
Great. Hello, everyone. Thanks for still being here. If you've been here already this morning, I talked about on-chain and FX and stablecoins this morning. My name is Marcus. I'm founder and president of Mento, which is an on-chain FX platform allowing users to swap between different stablecoins, between different currencies at the exchange rate, at the FX rate. And recently, I was also appointed as head of stablecoins at Zello Foundation. At Zello, we are focusing more and more on on-chain FX and on stablecoins. Very excited to be here. Thanks.
Now, I want to set the stage for the rest of the panel. Can you define what an agent is and what agentic payments are? And this is an open question.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, what is an agent? I mean, in my mind, I guess it's just code, right? It's a program that probably runs some loop where it's looking to do some job, right? And then when you talk about payments, I think right now what you see in like the X402 ecosystem is obviously like stablecoin debit payments. You load a wallet, and then that agent can spend that balance at any X402 endpoint. You see a lot of like legacy players trying to get into the space where you can use your credit card in Claude. And I think the next step of that is an on-chain credit product where instead of the agent holding a wallet, it can just ping some credit layer and make a stablecoin payment.
Agents is an agency. Basically, we empower it to do things on our behalf. It has its own mind, basically, but the agents itself, I guess it gives us a lot more efficiency in our time, daily use, and to build on top, to allow the agents to make payments for us through the agentic payments. I think it's really another revolutionary thing. And of course, one of the rails, the protocols is using stablecoins. So again, like I think it means different things in different parts of the world. People here in the US, a lot of people have many different options when it comes to payments. But for emerging markets, this might be their only solution. So,
So yeah, when we talk about agents, agents take inputs that can be the prompts that you give to the agent. They take the tools that you give to the agent, and think of knowledge bases that you supply to the agent. Tools can be APIs, access to MCP servers, access to databases, and maybe humans in the loop can also be a tool. Right? So you give all of them to an agent, you give the intelligence using the large language model that you choose, and let the agent run, let the software run in a loop until the goal is achieved, and then the agent provides the output. Right? So that's how I see that as an agent. And when it comes to payments, these are transactions that agentic payments are the transactions that are discovered by agents. They are initiated and authorized by agents also, right? So which means that there's a lot more under the hood that we need to follow, and I think we'll discover that as part of the session.
And Marcus?
Yeah, not much to add here. I think it was a good definition of what agents do. There was also an Agentic summit yesterday on this topic. And I think there was a lot of call-outs for agents to be built on open rails, and there was some data that the agents that we see today mostly actually, for example, purchase or engage in actually digital items. So often today agents buy cloud space or server capacity for you. And because of that, and because of agents code and act on behalf of you, they need digital currencies, and therefore there's a close link between stable coins and agents.
This leads very well to my next question. What preference, if any, do agents have in choosing one stablecoin over another, and why can't they just use normal dollars, quote unquote?
I think agents probably don't have a preference. The person who employs the agents maybe has a preference, and one part of that preference is depending on where that person sits that employs these agents. If they're in the US, then most probably they would have a preference for dollar stablecoins. And yesterday we also talked about most of the large language model companies are sitting in the US. Do we need more than just dollar stablecoins? And I would argue, yes, we need more, because the users are global, and if I'm based in Europe, I want to use the euro. Otherwise, I would exposed, or my agent would be exposed to FX risk to the dollar. And the same is true for many other regions of the world. And then even for regions where there's high inflation, where the currencies are very volatile, and maybe people prefer the dollar to hold. If an agent engages in some form of credit for you, then maybe you also have a preference for your local currency, because again, you would be exposed to FX risk.
Vincent, do you see, you have a stablecoin, do you see these agents having a preference or choosing one stablecoin over another?
Well, I think as Marcus mentioned, it's really the FX hedging. There is also, you have to consider some of the currencies out there are closed currencies. So there's a lot of countries with exchange controls. And basically, those are the countries that need stablecoin more than the countries that have the open exchange controls, no exchange controls, like Japan, Hong Kong, US, Singapore. But yeah, I think it's really the preference of the person behind the agent. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense if someone is living in Philippines, buying something from Malaysia, and then having to convert from the Malaysian ringgit stablecoin to US, then from US back to the Malaysian ringgit stablecoin. So there's just too much there. It wouldn't make sense. You would be paying more than you would a normal credit card transaction.
And yeah, maybe I'll add to this, right? So right now, I see that the humans who are building the agents have some kind of preference, but as we go into the next phase of evolution in software development life cycles, we'll see software being created by agents, right, and LLMs as we see that today. So that's when there'll be more, preference for agents that are more reputable, that have done X number of transactions, right? So that's kind of where we'll be heading into the near future.
And maybe to add one more thing, probably agents don't have a preference for specific stablecoin. They also don't have a preference for a specific chain. Probably for the agent, it's probably very important that it's fast, cheap, settlement times are low, gas fees are low, and this is in contrast to what we saw a few years ago, where there's maybe Ethereum maxis who just wanted to use stablecoins on Ethereum, even though it was maybe expensive, or Solana maxis or Celo maxis. I think today it's more important that basically the settlement layer is fast, cheap, safe, secure.
Yeah, I would just add, I think there's probably an interesting future where, if you're living in the Philippines or you're living in Argentina and your currency is experiencing, tons of inflation, maybe you have an agent that, hedges that away for you automatically. And yeah, they settle in the local currency, but it's holding in US dollars, or it's holding in some sort of inflation hedge. So I think that could really be beneficial to a lot of people in emerging markets.
And now I'm curious, what are some key challenges, whether they be security, compliance, risk, regulatory, that is faced when deploying these agents?
I think one of the challenges is that we're really in the early days, and it's around security. people, there are people using the agents for the right way, but there's also the counterparty, the other side. Your agents could be scammed. So this
You're on a
is
spending spree.
yeah. Well, at least you can control how much is in your wallet. You can give it an allowance if it spends over that. It's up to you, right? But the real challenge is that the credibility of sort of everything that I think everybody on this stage is building really relies on if there is any potential breaches, hacks that we may overlook, or we're relying on third parties to build something that hasn't advanced yet to that degree.
Yeah, I agree. Like, if you look at like the X402 ecosystem, there's tons of endpoints, but your agent doesn't know which ones are good and which ones could be fraudulent or could inject some, I don't know, malicious software into your agent or something, right? So I think on the, call it the merchant side, security is going to be super important, and you're going to have like a registration layer or something that certifies, oh, this X402 endpoint is good, this one's bad.
So yeah, we just discussed about what's part of the agentic loop, right? So one of the inputs is the prompt itself, right? So the prompt itself can be hijacked by, maybe the service maybe there is man-in-the-middle attack. The prompt itself could be hijacked, so which is one of the most important surface areas. We see the second one is that we see nowadays that all of these large language model, agentic AI coding assistance tools can run for hours, weeks, right? Days and weeks. So there is a big attack vector surface as well, right? So how do you prevent that? The next one is the skills poisoning. Right? So we're in the world where we see OpenClaw. OpenClaw Hub had like about 1,100 skills that were injecting poisonous, malicious software available for everyone to download. And we also see the supply chain attacks where you see the dependencies, like the NPM dependencies or other open source dependencies that got hijacked. And an example in Feb, we had Klein, which is a very popular development tool, got hijacked, and it was available. The software was injected with malicious code that would download malicious code in the user's computers. And we've also seen recently the TAN stack had like one of these similar incidents, and OpenAI software also got impacted, right? So there is a multiple surface vectors. But how do we also safeguard, maybe at this point, going a little bit deeper, right? So the agentic loops can be poisoned, but how do we go a little bit deeper? So that's, I think, where AWS recently launched the payments, what's a service that it goes beyond the non-deterministic loop, right? So there should be a place where there is a non-deterministic loop where LLMs are doing this processing, and where there should be a determinism in which there is a policy engine that will look at every single execution and understand whether it's allowed, whether it's authorized to execute the transaction. And that's what the core fundamentals of that software services.
And Marcus, any thoughts on the risk that agents face and people deploying agents face?
Especially in the blockchain space, we have already years of experience with like hacks, with like fat finger trades, with like all of the things that could go wrong when machines trade. And in the end, arbitrageurs in the space or market makers are using code to execute trades for years now. And I think in the end, as Anil said, depends on the policies and on the guardrails that these agents have, where they can execute, what they can do and what they can't do. So I think, there are huge risks, but many of them, on many of these mistakes we've already made in the past years.
Yeah, and Anil, I have this one to you because at AWS, I'm sure you have a lot of businesses using you. So I'm curious, what impact do agentic payments have on existing business models, and how can businesses build for these new actors of commerce?
So at AWS, we provide like the foundational services, like the infrastructure services, like databases, networking, those are all the foundational services that we provide. Storage, right? So to name a few of them. Now we made the payments as a native service that's available, right? So think of, if you think of S3 or Lambda, right? The compute is one of the foundational services. So now payments has become a foundational service that is available for enterprises to consume. And with the explosion of agentic AI, all the enterprises that that we work with, all the startups, the small business, small large businesses, are also investing a lot in the AI space, which means that there is a compute layer that is inherently like going through a lot of adoption, serverless compute, for example, networking. So because they need security at all layers of the stack, right? So that's kind of what we see happening here today. But to answer your question on the payments, right? So all these agentic autonomous loops break when they see like a payment wall. And now with X402 in there, like that's kind of where we see that there is a need for X402 to become part of the stack. And we've created SDKs where enterprises can use the SDK, build on top of the SDK, and get the guardrails that AWS can provide at foundational layers as such, right? So we also have software that think of the operating system for agents, which is like Agent Core. So if you have 1,000 people in the room and they hit like this service, every one of them will have a micro VM that is spun up, which will process the individual request, which can be up for 8 hours. And which means that there is a large surface for compute to happen. Agents can do the processing. So there is a lot that's happening today, and we are already building products in preview that can support this, right? So yeah.
Vincent, to you, how do you see agents and agentic payments affecting existing business models?
So I've been part of a few roundtables with different policymakers. Of course, one of them was at the Hong Kong earlier, and other countries. They're really asking themselves, do we really need stablecoins, and what is it used for? What is the use case? And the answer is always involving payments. So with that, they're really looking at how their corporations and businesses are going to use this tool to actually be more effective, but at the same time, these businesses, are also subject to different types of risks. I think the way that businesses is going to use these agentic payments is that it's now 24/7. It's not your agents don't sleep, and but there's also the flip side, which is you're going to be losing a lot of manpower to agentic agents. So that's one way that I think businesses will benefit.
I would just add, like, I think speaking to like business models, and this has been mentioned obviously before. I think Mark Andreessen's big on this point, but I think it's going to change the fundamental business model of the internet from subscriptions or SaaS to pay-per-use, right? I think that's what a lot of people think are coming, and I can see it, because why spend $100 a month for your Anthropic or $200 a month for your Anthropic, subscription when maybe you don't use that much, or maybe you're using more than that, and Anthropic's missing out on profit. So the pay-per-use kind of changes the whole game, and then it just enables a lot of economic activity on the internet that just doesn't work today. So I think that's probably going to be the biggest shift.
And there's so many business cases also around like micro transfers, which are now with stablecoins and more efficient rails possible, that can enable a lot of different interesting use cases, from training these algorithms and incentivizing users and people to do that, to distributing micropayments for different things. Then of course all the trading use cases also change. Agents can, for your business, constantly check your FX exposure, and if you want to, even rebalance your FX exposure. I think this is something that can make many businesses really, really efficient. We've been talking to a bunch of mobile carriers, for example, that are constantly exposed to FX in a way that every time when someone roams and basically pays a mobile carrier, then maybe also in different currency, they need to adjust their FX position, and being able to hand this to agents that can do this real time, because there's no effort in doing this every second instead of, I don't know, at the end of the business day, already changes the game. And then I think also with stablecoins and with stablecoins in different currencies, you now have these markets, these FX markets open 24/7, and you can allow your agents to engage in these markets 24/7. So I think there's so many things that are changing in changing the business model, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, something I've heard mentioned on the stage multiple times is X402. I'm curious, for those who may not know what it is in the audience, can you define what X402 is and how businesses benefit from it? To Philip. Yeah.
So my understanding is that, the 402 request was left open, I guess, at the start of the internet, right? And it was always a payments protocol, but no one, I guess, did anything with it for all these years. And finally, Coinbase kind of said, hey, why don't we use this for payments? And it kind of spun out of there and has taken a life of its own. It's awesome. I mean, I think in my mind, it's like, why can't every e-commerce transaction be an X402 endpoint or something, right? It really kind of widens the aperture of like what agents can do and what economic activity on the internet means.
Yeah, there's 402, there's MPP. I'm curious, it's like, are they just different standards? And
yeah, I mean, I think they're basically the same. One's on Tempo, one's on Base or whatever, on EVM.
Anil, to you.
Yeah, so when we talk about X402, right, so there is a server, like we talk about agentic commerce, there is a buy side and a sell side always, right, as part of commerce. So the seller side, which is trying to monetize on the data assets that they have or the API services that they provide, they've exposed an endpoint that is 402 capable, that can transact and accept payments, micropayments. So when the client receives that response back that the server is expecting a payment, it signs an authorization and says, hey, I'm authorizing that a transaction can be done, and I'm attaching that as a part of the header, right, the authorization itself. So the server will then say, hey, okay, now I have a response that the client is sending back and saying that this is the authorization. Let me ask a facilitator to settle the transaction on chain and then confirm that it's settled so that I can release the response back to the client who's requesting for the service. Right, so that's how I see that the full loop happens. So there are multiple parties, but one thing to note is that the facilitators are the ones who are making the transactions, and when we go into agentic loops, right? So we should always note that the agents should not actually hold the payments, right? So it should be always part of the guardrails that enable the agents to transact.
Marcus, any thoughts on X402 or MPP?
I mean, in the end, I think it's good that there's now more and more of these standards that basically people can agree on, because then these economies can grow. And in general, in that space, we see this now finally taking off, because now many things happen at the same time. You have, with X402 and other standards, you have basically a standard for agentic payments. You have more efficient payment rails with like low gas fees and fast chains. You have now more advanced regulatory clarity in many regions of the world, that you can actually engage agents for you to engage with stablecoins. Here in the US it's Genius, and in Europe is Mika, and there's many equivalents around the world. And I think all of this coming together is good, that this economy can now grow.
And maybe just to add there, right? So we see that as X402 is evolving and adoption is picking up, all of these transactions are like, going to be million scale transactions, sub-cent transactions. So when the scale increases, maybe there could be a human in the loop that could be, hey, if there is a payment that is requested for more than a certain amount, or it exceeds certain transaction volume or dollar volume, maybe the human in the loop can be invoked to say, hey, are we authorizing this to act furthermore? So, yeah.
Vincent, I'm sure you've seen a lot of adoption of agents using stablecoins across different regions. When it comes to agents, are there particular industries and geographies where you see the most adoption of agents and agentic payments? If so, which ones, and can you cite examples?
Well, I think right now the industry really that will benefit most from the agentic agents, it's the e-commerce space. There's a lot of e-commerce companies now that are really fighting for position, and if that opens up to global consumers, Second, of course, there's also the yield-bearing side of it. People want to generate yields. Our focus is really on the emerging markets. We think that the answer for the unbanked, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have been, hearing for many, many years, but with the combination of blockchain, with stablecoin, and now with the AI agent, I think the answer is really here now. Providing somebody making, equivalent to $100 a month, being able to put aside $5 and start creating a financial footprint via different ways, albeit vaults or just buying crypto and waiting for appreciation on that. So there's different parts, but I think, we can go on for hours on where the use cases are, but those are the ones that I think I'm more passionate about.
Yeah, Marcus, what use cases have you seen?
So on Zello, we've seen in the beginning a lot of agents in either the trading space or agents that in some way engage in digital assets, let's say. And digital assets does not only mean crypto assets. It could also mean digital asset like, for example, server capacity, things like that. But we're now actually also seeing more and more projects coming up in the e-commerce space. For example, we see, across Africa, interesting projects that employ chatbots inside different messenger apps that, for example, go and buy airtime or data for you, and choose the cheapest provider, choose the cheapest stablecoin, and then handle basically your data management, for example. So there's a bunch of interesting, also, let's say, more retail-focused applications that are just now coming up.
Philip, what use cases have you seen?
Yeah, I guess the famous one was the SpaceX S1, where they did like the.
What was that?
So I guess someone paid their agent like $1 and a few cents to read the SpaceX S1 and then do like a very detailed like investment committee memo, breaking it down, right? And it only cost them like a little over $1. But in that, process, the agent had to go out and do a bunch of like microtransactions. So I think that's obviously super interesting. But what you were talking about, Vincent, is like in emerging markets, like enabling that person that makes $100, to have $5 of on-chain credit or something like that. That changes their life, or it can really help them. So I think that's a really interesting use case. And then I also think B2B is going to be real big in agentic. Like if I'm a home builder, and I'm, have to get cement from some other country, I think in the future your agent will just talk to the cement manufacturer's agent, and they'll negotiate a deal, and they'll pay in stablecoins.
And then FX risk is hedged, and the cheapest rail is chosen, and so on.
And maybe a different view of this is I'll talk about this from the industry's perspective, because we see this adoption in various industries, right? So, for example, ads, right? So, ad tech, where you can, the ads can be published using agents or can be consumed. Now, if you look at the normal consumption, right? So, when we walk through the New York lanes, we see billboards, but now agents are not looking at those billboards, right? So, they're looking at APIs that are more reliable, right? So, we see across different industries, like maybe healthcare, like can somebody make a healthcare appointment, or can a travel and hospitality industry, right? The flight reservations, can they be made by agents? Can they be negotiated by agents? So there's different industries, but one thing that was very interesting was of manufacturing, where robotics are now picking up, and I came across a use case where they're trying to say, hey, there are a number of robots, each attached with a payment tag, and see which one actually performs well, and be able to figure out if they can give more tasks to that robot and encourage or let the other robots fight, right? So I've seen that use case.
This brings the loop in the real world.
Exactly. So that's one of the steps in the evolution. But yeah.
Marcus, I want to ask about the opportunity that exists with agents and agentic payments. How big can this get? And can you cite numbers or any statistics, or just lay out your vision for it?
From my perspective, and this is a bit of a bias because I talked about FX the whole day, so I'll stay in that area. I think that can grow really, really big, because if you think about the addressable market, it's in the end infinite. The market for currencies is the largest market in the world, and $7.5 trillion are traded in FX every day, estimated by the Bank for International Settlements. And this market is still mostly on old rails, which means it's not 24/7, it's not accessible everywhere. There's a bunch of like mistrades happen, and this in the largest market in the world. And just like being now able to bring a large part of this market on chain, make it 24/7, make it accessible everywhere in every country, and then actually have agents that can hedge your FX exposure for you as a corporation, that can make all your global purchase for you as a private person. I think that has a huge potential, and actually can change a lot in financial markets.
And to you, Philip.
Yeah,
Down the line.
I agree. I think it definitely has huge potential. The one thing, the caveat that I would just mention is, I think currently, like e-commerce is huge, right? But a majority of retail commerce happens actually in store, in-person retail, right? So I think it's like 75% of transactions. So agentic commerce probably won't take that away. So, but maybe it'll shrink what that means, or maybe it takes it all. But I think in-person, in-store retail will still be a thing.
Up to you, Vincent.
We're already seeing, I think, over 53% of the U.S. businesses already using AI agents. And I think McKinsey also projected $1.5 to $3 trillion of e-commerce orchestrated by agents by the year 2030. So those numbers are real numbers, and I think the opportunities are just endless. Of course, a lot of governments don't want to hear that, because every government is looking at the risk currency flight, and it's just hard to keep this technology, this industry down. I think this is going to be huge. Like, I mean, this is the year of the agentic agent, right?
So yeah, from a different vantage point, we see that many customers, right, or I should say most of the customers of AWS are definitely investing on agentic AI architectures to streamline their processes and to bring in efficiencies, right? So that's definitely something to be taken for. Now, on the payment side, we spoke about X402. So X402 has like $50 million, worth of transactions, or 175 million transactions that have taken place, all second around 200 milliseconds, right? So again, today most of it is happening on USDC, on Base. 98% of the transactions have happened on Base because of the latency benefits are out there. But as soon as fiat rails are available, the support becomes more native. There will be more of a explosion for this next steps here in payments.
So TLDR, it's going to be big. It's going to be real big. Now, if people want to learn more, engage with this topic, go deeper on this topic of agents and agentic payments, where should people go, and what do you use personally to keep up? I'll start with you, Anil, and we'll go down the line. So
we are always following X platform for the latest updates of everything that's happening around. So that's one thing for sure. AWS has like a news blog to keep up to speed on what we make available for our customers, and I'd say that is one place to check it out. And for the builders out there, there is Twitch streaming that's available.
There's Twitch streamers.
Twitch streamers.
Agent Twitch streamers. That's new to me.
Twitch streamers,
oh, wow.
For sure, right? So, I mean, I have like another show as well. It's called the Show and Tell, and you can find a lot of videos on Agentic AI that we make it available. But one thing I'd say is there is something called Agent Core, which is a foundational service that makes the build of agents possible to allow you to bring your agents in a matter of minutes with all the security guardrails that are available, the foundational security guardrails, and we see security as day zero at AWS, right? So you may want to just check those resources out. And yeah, that's about me.
Our agent of choice is Claude. So we've been training a lot of our staff how to use it properly. I mean, including myself. So I guess I got to go back to school.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I think obviously, crypto Twitter or X is where I go. But I would just say, download Hermes or OpenClaw and start messing around. Like that's really how I learned. And I've somehow got, I used OpenRouter and got the agent connected to my Telegram, and now I can talk to it on Telegram, and it's all free. I don't have to pay Claude. It doesn't work as good as Claude, but yeah, just start messing around with it. It's pretty fun.
So in the end, if you want to learn about agents, ask an agent to teach you. And you know.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing with AI. If you just ask it directions, it will tell you. It'll tell you how to use it and how to use it to its fullest potential. But yeah, with that was all my questions. Thank you so much.